You all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's what yours called, right?
Yeah, sure. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of the regular meetings on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and by providing a copy of the annual notice of the regular meetings for the year 2017 to the Glen Ridge paper, the Glen Ridge Voice, the Montclair Times, and to the Star Ledger on Tuesday, January 10th, 2017, and by filing said notice in the office of the municipal clerk. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes. Here. Lesovich.
Here.
Lefkowitz.
Here.
Dawson.
Here.
Murphy. Here. Morrow.
Here.
Mayor Patrick is present. Mr. Mayor, you have a floor.
Thank you, Michael. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for our last regular meeting on March 13th?
Also moved. Second.
Thank you. Any comments on that? If not, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Lesovich.
Aye.
Lefkowitz.
Abstain.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
5 ayes and 1 abstention. The motion is carried.
Thank you. Are there any written communications?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We received a memorandum from the Essex County Board of Taxation notifying us that a resolution was passed ordering Glen Ridge to perform a revaluation. We expect the revaluation to take place in 2018 and take effect in 2019. We received a letter from Janice Howley, Director of Planning and Community Development, that there's a proposed amendment to the Unified Land Use and Circulation element, which is being considered by the Montclair Planning Board. And then finally, a letter from the mayor of the Township of Milford recommending thanking and recommending Assemblyperson Bersicelli on introducing legislation to create 2 new liquor licenses, and also asking us for the support of that resolution. And that concludes correspondence.
Thank you. Would you follow the communication, please? At this time, the public is welcome to come and address the council. Would anyone like to be heard?
Yes, I'm here to see if I'm...
Would you please come up to
Sure, yes.
give us your name and address, please?
I'm Glen from 58 Essex Avenue. I'm here to speak about the Sanctuary City issue. I want to thank you on behalf of the group gathered here today for hearing our comments on this issue. We're presenting to you today a petition with 501 signatures of Glen Ridge residents. We've gone through and verified that they are in fact residents. We deleted 45, in fact, who are not. And while we recognize that there's an ongoing national dialogue about immigration issues, we're looking to talk to you about how this relates to our town specifically and our community. There are 3 things that our petition is asking for. First, that our Glen Ridge Police Department not be deputized to enforce federal immigration policy on a voluntary basis. 2, that our police will not inquire needlessly about immigration status. And 3, that our police not keep any non-required records on immigration status. We recognize that any policy made by this council could, in theory, be superseded by state or federal law, but we feel that we need to take action on this because it's actually extremely relevant to our town. Now, you may be wondering how so. Our town is mostly white, mostly U.S. citizens, but we're surrounded by a number of diverse communities, Bloomfield, Montclair, Newark, and we have undocumented immigrants working in and traveling through our town every day. It's in fact a very important local issue. We think that designating Glen Ridge as a sanctuary city is an expression of our values as a town. Those 501 signatures on this petition, I think, demonstrate that there's broad support for welcoming generally law-abiding people to our town and ensuring that people feel safe in our town. We don't want our local taxes to be committed to supporting policy on a voluntary basis that we as a town disagree with. And most importantly, perhaps, we think that this policy designating Glen Ridge as sanctuary city would keep us safer. We want to create an environment where everyone, regardless of their immigration status, feels comfortable talking to our law enforcement, reporting crime if need be. It's not unreasonable to imagine a scenario in our town where maybe a landscaper who's an undocumented immigrant witnesses a burglary or an accident or something worse, and we need that person to feel safe talking to our police department. In fact, in our conversations with the chief, she's mentioned that they've encountered situations that fall under this category. There was an accidental death a few years ago in which the police department had to work very hard to question a landscaping crew, and it took some effort to compel them to cooperate because of this community's generalized hesitation to speak with police. We think that towns like Maplewood and South Orange have offered a clear way to codify these sentiments as an ordinance. We urge the council to adopt clear and strong language in addressing this issue. We don't want to face a situation like Montclair, which is a generally weak resolution and an ongoing petition effort because of it. We hope that through a dialogue with you, we can create a resolution that satisfies the will of these 501 people who've signed this petition and the town at large, and will keep us safer. Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you. Well, I think you probably answered my next question. How many people here today are in favor of the petition that was just anybody here who is opposed to this petition?
Anyone brave enough to raise their hand?
You'll be protected. All right. I think that we certainly will take into account the Maplewood resolution, as we believe it exemplifies pretty well Glen Ridge's values. We have two caveats. One, we will continue to abide by all state rules and regulations that dictate how we police. And generally, it's pretty simple. If we arrest somebody on an indictable offense or DWI, we have to ask them about their status. That's the law. We have no choice in that. Otherwise, and we do not have to seek information on immigration status of any witness or victim. I think Chief is here, can go into it in more particulars if somebody's interested. But we will abide by the rules and laws that are set down by the state of New Jersey that we have to follow. And secondly, we will seek to adopt a resolution that does not in any way, shape, or form lead to additional costs for this town. So those are the, I think, the parameters that we will work with going forward as we try to develop a satisfactory resolution. Does anybody else want to jump in on this? Chief, you can jump in if you wish, if you want to add anything I said. John?
What we do in the public safety is we follow the directive of the Attorney General of New Jersey, and that directive that the mayor was talking about was initiated, I think, in 2007 or 2008, so it hasn't changed with the current presidency. And we, as a borough, we abide by the law, but it's extremely limited circumstances, as the mayor said, where it's legally required to determine that information. And historically, Chief, you can follow this up, we have not had anyone deputized for ICE, and there's no plans right now for that to occur. So,
I want to be heard. Would you please come up?
like to be heard. Just briefly, I wanted to. Good evening, everybody. Timothy King of 206 Forest. I have looked at the Attorney General Law Enforcement Directive number 2007-3, which is the directive that basically took all the teeth away from Montclair's ordinance. That directive is, based on my review, not legally binding on this town, and the AG's office went to the news in 2013 saying that they're not following it and haven't since 2008. I have an NJ.com article stating as much, which I would like to certainly be considered. Perhaps the town's attorney, who's more versed in municipal law than myself, could offer a more informed opinion on it after doing some research on the issue. But I do have a printout of the AG's record. I just don't want to see this ordinance meet the same fate as Montclair.
We're not talking about an ordinance here, we're talking about a resolution.
Or a resolution ordinance. Could I ask what teeth a resolution would have?
Resolution is John, why don't you?
Well, what the resolution would do, it would express the will of the mayor and the council as to what the policy of the town is as it relates to the enforcement of the law. And that would be the resolution under which, the chief of police would operate. I thank you for, the handout you've given up talking about the fact that they may not be enforcing this. But if you read that directive, and you haven't, I did bring some extra ones in case there are people in the audience who may not have had a chance to get it or to see it. I have about 5 or 6 extra copies here, if some would like it. In reading what was proposed, I guess, in 2007, it had appeared to me to be a somewhat balanced approach to what is a very, very difficult and sometimes inflammatory issue. And essentially, the only mandate that I see that the state imposes on a municipality is that if a person is charged with an indictable offense, and in New Jersey, an indictable offense is something where it's a very serious crime. It's murder, attempted murder, maybe armed robbery. In a situation like that, where you're dealing with a very serious crime, in that circumstance, the state of New Jersey has said, as part of the investigation, you should make inquiry as to status.
Is that your advisement, or is that a mandate? And if it's a mandate, what are the penalties behind failing to take that action?
Well, I guess the question would be, why would we not want to do that if someone is charged with an indictable?
Well, if it's the will of the people of this town that we don't make such an inquiry, and it's an elective action by our law enforcement, where it's not being enforced by the AG's office, and according to that news article, it's not being. I would say that it's something that we would have the discretion not to up until such point as.
But we've received no directive from anyone saying that it is not the law. That is the circumstance that we find ourselves in.
Well, as a seasoned attorney, you know that there are many laws that are still on the books that go unenforced for many, many years that are just wrong. You probably can think of half a dozen right now that you would never dream of enforcing. I think that this is also one of those cases where we would have to wait for further guidance from the AG's office, and until then, we don't comply with a directive that doesn't really carry any sort of legal weight.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. All I do know is that we do have this in 2007. In my view, it's a balanced approach because other than crimes that are of a very serious nature, there is no inquiry to be made. No inquiry is to be made of anyone. It's certainly in the case of a situation where a person is a victim of a crime, or in a case where a person wants to cooperate with the police. In all of those situations, there is no inquiry that would be made as to immigration status. The only situations that the state has directed, again, whether it's still in effect or not is a different question, but the only 2 situations in which the state has some guidance, whether it's still in effect or not is a different issue, But those two situations are if a person is driving while intoxicated, number one, or number two, if the person has been charged with an indictable offense. Those are the only two guidelines that the state has given us as to when that has to be reported. The other side of that is that we always, as preservers of the public trust, when I say the public trust, that includes the public assets, you know, the value, the well-being, economic well-being of the town. You know, once you depart from what is the last written statement of the state of it, and you embark on a different course of action, and you don't follow the guideline, and the person that you don't cooperate with ICE in those limited circumstances then goes on to do something else to somebody else, you know, what can be said is that had this town done what it was supposed to do under the guideline, that person would not have committed that serious crime there. We could be sued. Now, you may say, well, you know what, that's part of it, but as the preservers of the public trust...
Wouldn't there have to be a causal connection between what the town does and the subsequent act? And
I don't disagree. I mean, the problem that we have in the society that we live in today is that people sue over anything they want to sue. And then you have the lawsuit, and then you have the defense of the lawsuit, and then you have whether or not you are going to pay out on the lawsuit. Now, you may say, well, that's a price that we're willing to pay, but that's the job of the elected official to see whether or not they weigh that.
has there been any lawsuits for recidivism, or as a result of recidivism from any of the other sanctuary cities?
I don't follow them. All I know is what we have here.
Right.
We
No,
don't have-
I just think that would be a very speculative result.
I have bring in here, because I think there's one key question we want to ask in this. Chief, you know of any municipality where the police department today is not following this directive?
I do not, Mr. Mayor.
And you have talked to a number of the chiefs of police since this issue was raised, have you not?
For at least the last 3 or 4 months, we've been discussing issues directly related to sanctuary cities and many peripheral issues that have come up all through Essex County. And I can definitely tell you that I sit as the vice president of the Essex County Chiefs of Police Association. It's been spoken about often. After I met with the group on Friday, I took some more time to speak to the chiefs from the county of Essex. And it is a directive that all police chiefs follow in the county of Essex.
So, as a municipal body, we are not going to break the law. I don't care what's in the newspaper. If this is what every municipality is doing, we will continue to do it.
Yeah, but that being said, Mr. Mayor, Mr. King, we hear you and your group loud and clear, and we're impressed with the number of signatures. And what we said we will do is we will work to fashion a resolution that meets what you're speaking about. Until we get together and craft that resolution, we can't tell you what it contains. I can tell you that there are people who appreciate and approve of the resolutions that have been made by other towns. And we're going to look at them and put them together and come up with something that we can vote on as a board. And how that vote turns out is another thing, but that's the first thing we'll do, is we'll craft the resolution.
What I would encourage is to accept a briefing on the subject from experts in the field. Perhaps the ACLU would be willing to have their attorneys draft an opinion on whether or not this directive is legally binding, and the police chiefs, I mean, I'm not sure whether following this directive establishes whether or not it is in fact law, but, you know, that is the very question that I'm raising. I don't believe that this is law. An AG's directive is not a statute, it's not a regulation, it doesn't go through notice of comment, it's a directive. And per the AG's office, they're not following this directive. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get to that.
Was there anybody else that would like to be heard, or is there any more comments up here? Yeah.
Good evening, Lori Jean Moody, 86 Oxford Street. And I really just, on behalf of a lot of the people who've been working on this, want to thank you for your openness to examining this and adopting a resolution. And I want to frame this in a thanks to our police department as well. I think one of the things that I have valued most about this town is that we take community policing very seriously. And I think from coffee with a cop, to the trading cards, to the camp that they're launching, to the, night out at the pool. We embrace community policing because outreach to the community and communication is what makes us all safer. So I've been very encouraged, and I just want to thank all of you for your willingness to work on this issue for our town.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard? Any more comments from council? Or
Mr. Mayor,
attorney? I'm sorry?
Mr. Mayor, if I just
I'm sorry.
wanted to thank you folks for coming out and putting this petition together. It really opened my eyes to the immigration problem that we have here in the United States. And, but not for that, I would not have really looked into it. Thank you.
What about process, Mayor? How will we handle this now? What's going to happen to them?
Well, I think that between now and the next meeting or third meeting out, we will meet and try to study the Maplewood and Orange resolutions, look at it from our standpoint, the values that we have, see if we can craft together a proposal that is tailor-made to Glen Ridge and that will answer most of the concerns that you have expressed and that we've heard elsewhere. So that's from my perspective. Does anybody else want to jump in on the process? Would you please come up and give your name and address? What is your name and address?
If somebody stopped for a traffic violation, is this something that should be reported if we have no criminal?
A traffic violation? Did you say traffic?
Stop for traffic violation.
Not unless it's a DWI.
Oh,
Only a DWI.
I would just like to add that I think, all of us having discussed it before this meeting, that, we don't all see it in exactly the same way, but I think in general, this body shares the idea that it is very important to keep the social fabric knitted together. And that includes Glen Ridge residents and people who come through town and people who work in town. We want to see a level of confidence on the part of anyone who might interact with the police or with any other public officials, that there should not be some unexpected repercussion for doing so, that everyone should be able to come forward with complete confidence to take part in civic life without fear of repercussion. And I think that's a guiding principle.
I might add that that has been the way Glen Ridge has been for many, many years. So
Absolutely.
really,
My apologies.
No need.
I won't take up a lot of your time, but I did feel I needed.
Your name, please?
My name is Maricela Santiago, and I live at 5 Evergreen Court, and I've been here since the year 2000. And before you guys go off and speak amongst yourselves about this resolution, which, again, I really want to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, and from my family, and from a lot of my friends, for you guys being so open to considering this. I just want to express that as a native Puerto Rican, advocate to, people express their fears, their concerns, their joys often. As a bookseller, watching booksellers where I worked for 9 years, I actually worked a lot with immigrant families, helping translate and give them access to public service academia for the folks who walk through. So I just really, really feel it's very important. Often in Glen Ridge, we have such a incredibly safe and protected and almost naive point of view because we live in this idyllic town. And I really feel that it's important for you guys to know that in my experience, this is definitely an issue in our town. It is immediate and it is definitely around us, and those of us perhaps who have a bit of a different perspective, and I'm happy to talk a little more about that.
How so is it an issue? I mean, do they feel threatened?
It
if
is
they're
an
going to
issue,
be-
often, folks are afraid, for sure, to speak up about anything. Often folks, feel that they don't have a lot of guidance in terms of what the right thing to do may or may not be, and may or may not lead to something a little bit more complicated than they want to get into. I cannot speak on the number of people that I have spoken to who may or may not be legal. That is not something that I generally tend to get into. My position has been privileged as a neighbor, as a person having work done, or as a person hiring a person, or as a person who happens to love my dog, and like a bunch of the crews that you guys know are out there working, doing a lot of landscaping work and the painting work and the service work of this town. I've gotten to know them. They love my dog. We talk in Spanish for a while. We talk about their kids. We talk about their family, and off we go. But they now know that I am a safe person to speak to. And you would be surprised how many times I have had to have conversations. For example, I happen to have a painting crew at my house again. I don't generally say, hey, what's going on here? And these folks hadn't been paid in many, many weeks. And they asked me to intervene on behalf of them to their boss, which put me in a really incredibly bizarre position. But having said that, that is something they would never feel free to go to someone about. They haven't been paid money, they don't have money for rent, they don't have money for their kids. Oftentimes in other towns that I have worked on, these kids are in the school system, which is something that does concern me, what the point of view of the school system in Glen Ridge might be regarding this petition, but I know that's not something to talk about here. But I just felt I really wanted to get up here and give you guys a little bit of my perspective on that, and to please take that with you.
But to that question, do you think a resolution making Glen Ridge a welcoming city would filter down to the workforce that you speak of?
It would certainly filter down to me. I can tell you. I'm sorry, but I have to say, this is personal for me. This is incredibly personal. I happen to be Puerto Rican, which means I'm incredibly privileged. I'm a citizen of this country. You would not believe the conversations I have about people that involve a lot of tears because I am a citizen and folks are not. I feel incredibly privileged to be a citizen of this country. But I will say the fact, and I have a number of Hispanic friends who are here in the audience. We have conversations about this. We have conversations about how our kids feel in the school system, about who they engage with, who they meet in other towns. At the soccer games, I am that mom who's cheering for the Glen Ridge team while sitting in the opposing town stands because everyone there speaks Spanish and it's fun. And I will say to you, it would make an enormous difference to me. It would make an enormous difference to my children. It would make, and how they view the town that they have lived in literally their entire lives. It would make an enormous difference to my husband that I've been married to for a very long time, who was born in Massachusetts, but adored, happens to love me. And it would make an enormous difference to every family that I know that I get together with 4 or 5 times a year to celebrate our Hispanic heritage in this town, and to appreciate how welcoming our school system and our town has been to our culture and our people. And that's all I can say. It would make a difference for us. It would make a difference for those folks. Absolutely, I can tell you that. For me it will, for my friends it will, for these people it will. But it will make a difference for us as Glen Ridgers, which
But Mayor, you're probably not gonna speak about the, are you gonna speak about the, sanctuary city issue, or are you gonna speak
No,
about a
no,
different
wait.
issue? Yeah, why don't we wait until we
Yeah, wait
finish
until we
this?
wrap this up, I'm sorry.
Megan, did you have something that you wanted to bring up? No?
Okay, any other comments from the council member? Okay, should we let it go? I think that now, if anybody does not want to see the rest of how government works in action, it's a good time to split.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Hey. Oh, hi. Thank you. Took a break.
I already texted him. I tweeted him. Can you do that?
Everyone looks like Elizabeth Taylor. No, with the white hair.
Maybe we should close the door.
Yeah.
I read the article, the article basically says
Like-
Well, it must be right, it was in the Star Ledger.
Hey, Jackie, hi. Someone said you were at the, Chamber of Commerce thing, I didn't see you. Nina's?
Yeah.
Michael, should we continue?
Why don't you pull the door shut?
Andrew, want to close the doors? Yeah, thanks.
Nothing begins.
Long time. Yeah, there you go. We'll keep the neighborhood, that way.
Okay.
But there was no meeting going on, we just
Right.
recessed.
A couple minutes ago, we gave everyone who wanted to leave an opportunity to leave. At that time, we took a brief recess, so there will be a break in the transcript of the meeting.
There's no business being conducted.
But business was discussed during that time. We're still on comments from the public, so would anybody like to be heard on anything?
Your turn, Peter.
Okay.
The good news is my pain and suffering lawsuit was settled very quickly for the maximum amount of money, which means actually the insurance companies are going to be talking to each other because the curb cuts were what's the word? Implemented? Incriminated.
No.
As part of my lawsuit. By the way, so they're going to be talking to each other. Why did they have to pay out so much money? That was why can't I remember?
Implicated, maybe?
Implicated.
There you go.
It was implicated as being a hazard. And in fact, I have right here a summary from the access board who were in charge of these truncated domes or whatever, and they actually explicitly admit that it would have negative effects on blind people, that their confidence in getting around would be diminished. And so they even admit it, but I suppose they decided that's a vote that's disposable. And so that they basically admit in their research that about two-thirds of people, because of the truncated dome, would not give them confidence in getting around, but they did it anyway. And they just, I guess, hoped that blind people would stay home and not complain. And maybe that's what I was supposed to do, but I did walk to the bank, and because of that, whatever, I got hit by a car, and now the insurance companies are going to start talking to each other. And I think it's going to have a ripple effect, because I'm hearing more and more about, I talked to someone, even when I mention it in passing about what a hazard they are, the person says, yeah, I know. I said, how do you know? He says, my grandmother's blind. So they talk among each other that blind people are afraid to go out. So it was just, I guess, a political decision that the blind vote is dispensable. But my freedom is not dispensable. And so what I'm saying is that I'm going to continue to rebel, whether legally through the insurance companies saying we're not going to, for the premiums, we're not going to, that's a hazard. They're not going to, if you don't want to have sympathy, it's going to cost more, it's going to cost in lawsuits and insurance coverage. And so I'm just letting you know what's happening here, because I actually think it was kind of good that I wasn't killed, that I was just injured slightly, but there are more injuries going to happen in the future if these, in fact, like I said, they admit that these truncated domes are ineffective. They were designed for, actually, interesting, they didn't, for the edge of train platforms, which is a totally different context, because when you're on a train platform, there's an edge, I'm going to be careful, you're walking vigilantly. But as far as on curbs and traversing curbs, they didn't regard that that's a completely different context. And they knew they didn't regard it, but they just shrugged it off and moved along. And so I'm just letting you know where we stand, and I'm going to continue to rebel and bring attention to this, because I don't like being confined to my home because of fear of walking the street. It's just starting here. I'm just letting you know.
Thank you.
Good. The additional benefit of those rubber things is the sun makes them shiny and slippery.
Anybody else want to hear? Yes. Jen, welcome. I was going to say that looks like Jennifer Brewer.
It does look like Jennifer Brewer.
It's just like Jennifer.
It's my doppelganger. I just wanted to represent the library tonight and thank the mayor and council for awarding the library the Film Fund grant in order to provide selected shorts to the community. We are so excited to bring this amazing event to town, and it wouldn't have happened without your support. And it really means a lot to me and the Board of Trustees, all the continued support you provide the library, and it's amazing, and we have so much excitement already in town. We're almost completely sold out, and I'm busting the seams with the women's club. Basically, they've never put so many chairs in. They don't even know if they're going to fit, but I'm renting chairs. They don't even own enough chairs because we're so full. So, thank you again, and I think this is going to be a tremendous opportunity for the community, for a really fantastic art and cultural event. If you don't have your tickets, please get them now, because they'll literally be sold out in a couple days. And I want to invite you all to come and and join me in that event. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you for all the good you do.
I'm sorry.
We got our tickets.
Is there anybody else who would like to be heard? Not, please move on to the meeting.
Mayor, I have a resolution tonight, Resolution 52-17. Be it resolved that the following claims be approved and warrants be drawn for the same. And be it resolved that the Chief Financial Officer, Treasurer of the Borough of Glen Ridge is hereby authorized to issue the payroll for the employees of the Borough of Glen Ridge for the pay date of April 1, 2017. Mayor, I move the resolution.
I'll second that.
Okay. Thank you, Art. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Palovich.
Aye.
Leftwich.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, the resolution is approved.
Mayor, that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Paul?
Yes, Mayor, I only have a couple of items. I have an ordinance and a resolution. I have ordinance number 1658 for final reading. This is an ordinance establishing titles for employees of the Borough of Glen Ridge represented by our local 58 and fixing maximum salaries and other compensations for those titles.
Mr. Mayor, just to state for record that this ordinance has been posted and also advertised in accordance with the state statute.
I declare the meeting open for discussion of this ordinance and only this ordinance, this being the time and place for the public hearing. Would anybody like to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the ordinance be finally passed.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. You have heard the motion of Councilperson Vasovich, seconded by Councilman Murphy. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Paslovich.
Aye.
Leftwich.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, the ordinance is passed on final reading.
Actually, I misspoke. I have another ordinance, actually, Mr. Mayor. I have an ordinance for second reading as well, ordinance number 1659. This is an ordinance amending Title 10, which is our parking code, for the existing provisions at the far side of Forest Avenue.
Mr. Mayor, just to state for record that this ordinance has been properly advertised and posted in accordance with the state statute.
I declare the meeting open for discussion of this ordinance and only this ordinance, this being the time and place for the public hearing. Would anybody like to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing none, I declare this public hearing closed.
Mr. Mayor, I move the ordinance for final reading.
I second that.
Thank you. You have heard the motion of Councilperson Vasovich, seconded by Councilman Lefkowitz. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Paslovich.
Aye.
Leftwich.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, the ordinance is passed on final reading.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Lefkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no report this evening, but I would like to thank you and the council for the support that you showed me while I was out dealing with my father's illness and eventual passing away, and support I received from many in the town, including some who came tonight. So I'm very grateful for that. Secondly, I would like to put forth Resolution 53-17. This is to authorize the film fund grants for the Selected Shorts program and the community concerts. I just wanted to add to Jen's announcement of the Selected Shorts program. I don't know if you mentioned the date, Thursday, May 25th?
Correct, 7:30.
And so very much looking forward to that. Got my tickets. And the community concert series, of course, is sponsored by the Congregational Church every year, and many wonderful programs. So I would like to move Resolution 53-17.
I'll second that.
You've heard the resolution. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Paslovich.
Aye.
Leftwich.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, the resolution is approved.
Art?
Okay, I have a brief report on the activities for Public Works through March 27th. DPW has gone through all of our snow removal gear and repaired it from our last storm, and hopefully we'll not need it again until next winter.
Amen.
You sure of that? The Parks crew's been working on getting our fields ready for play. Additionally, the trees planted within the last few years are being pruned to ensure they grow straight and true. Tonight I will be introducing a resolution to approve the planting of 116 trees. We will be taking delivery of these trees by April and complete planting by the end of May. As part of the labor contract, gator bags, these are those green things that you fill with water and it trickles the water down into the thing, and we go around and fill them periodically with the public works guys. So they'll be installed on the new planted trees. The Shade Tree Commission has worked with the forester in identifying planting locations. Letters have gone out to all property owners that are slated to receive a tree. We adjust our planting locations and have feedback provided. We look forward to the additional trees lining our streets. So I might add, if somebody sees it, if we have real hot weather this summer or get, a long extended period of drought, it doesn't hurt to go out there and put a little water on them. They need about 5 gallons a week to sustain that because they have a water absorbent ball that's buried with them. So, we keep after that stuff, and we've got a good group taking care of them. I also have resolution number 5417, which authorizes the purchase and delivery of the trees. So I won't read the whole thing, but it relates to the plant detectives of 45 Route 206 Chester have submitted the lowest responsible bid in the amount of $23,408. So offer that resolution, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dan. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Palovich.
Aye.
Lefkowitz.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, none nays, resolution is approved.
Dan?
Mr. Mayor, I have Resolution 5517, which awards Turf Smith LLC of Verona, New Jersey, who submitted the lowest responsible proposal in the amount of $34,533.55 for the maintenance of an application to the borough's athletic fields. Mr. Mayor, I move Resolution 5517.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Art? Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilor Hughes.
Aye.
Palovich.
Aye.
Lefkowitz.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, none nays, the resolution is approved.
Also, Mr. Mayor, I have Resolution 5617, which sets the following fees for recreation summer day camp. Electronic registration is $35 a day, and manual registration is $45 per day. We also have a youth police academy, which the registration fee is $100. Perhaps the chief could explain the youth police academy.
Sure. It's our first ever. It'll be taking place this summer, the week of July 10th. And I've so far been able to look at the agenda for the week. The kids will be busy, trying to get a nice mix of boys and girls with the different ages. And we seem to be relying a little bit heavier, or the registration is coming in heavy in one area. We're really trying to do some outreach to get a nice sport base. Besides the fact that this was a dream of Detective Sergeant Manley's when he came into the Detective Bureau, one of my goals is to make sure that we really expose some kids from Glen Ridge to municipal policing, with the hope of starting to recruit some more kids from town to work at the Glen Ridge Police Department, whether it be at the ambulance squad, in the police department, in either a civilian or a restoring capacity.
How many kids do you expect to participate in it, or how many could you handle?
I believe we're going to top it out at 30. I don't know that the detectives realize how many kids that they can handle because although they have methods of instruction, they're not full-time teachers, but it's really going to take all of us at the police department at different times. So we've been advised that no more than 30, otherwise we may be sorry. So 30 will be the number for this year.
Mr. Mayor, I have for you Resolution 5617.
Wait a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilor Hughes.
Aye.
Palovich.
Aye.
Lefkovich.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, the resolution is approved.
As for the report, I'm going to keep it brief, Mr. Mayor, just as the fields are being re-readied. One of the real big setbacks that the weather gave us was Freeman tennis courts, which we really can't touch until they dry out. And what with this week's early wet weather, it's going to be a while before we're really going to be able to start tennis this spring. Summer day camp registration, and speaking with the Director of Recreation, Jim Cowan, he really wants to encourage folks to do online registration as opposed to the old way. And there's an inducement of lower fees if you do go online and register for the various activities that we have here in town, whether it be the pool or summer camp. We really do want to encourage that electronic registration process. And you can do that by going online at glenridgenewjersey.org.
Is it electronic payment as well?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all Mr. Murphy has paid.
Thank you, Councilor. Henry?
I do not have anything this evening.
Okay. Comments of the administrator?
Okay, we've got 2 items to add on to Councilor Murphy's report. We're also going to have electronic registration at Carteret Park. So if you're just coming for the day, you will have the opportunity to register online. The second item is, unfortunately, from last meeting, Congressman Payne had to reschedule his visit. He will be coming on April 10th. He plans to meet with council at a workshop session, followed by a tour of the ambulance squad and public safety, and then he'll be present to make the opening statement for the April 10th council meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. John?
Mayor, I have no report.
Chief?
Mr. Mayor, just 2 things. The annual report for the Glen Ridge Police Department from 2016 went out to the mayor and council, probably by mail late last week. It'll be on the website, on the borough website, and we'll give a copy to the library as well. If anybody else is interested in looking at it or its content, and that just sort of segues into 2016 really being a year where we try to emphasize as much as we can, even more so getting to know all different members and age groups in the community. And also just to add on to the topic of discussion for this evening regarding the group that was here earlier, that one of the things that Essex County is really starting to push and that we've taken part of is the fair and impartial policing, which was training that was done for 3 days in February. It was hosted by the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. It's really going to have a nice trickle-down effect, and we will teach it. It'll be mandatory to teach in-house to our officers. So it's definitely something that not only are we on top of, but we're definitely committed to.
Thank you.
I have a question. Do you get other towns report like ours? Do they circulate
the
them?
report?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have some of them in the office?
Typically online.
Oh, the other towns are doing that too then?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But I told you this in an email earlier. It was a really marvelous report, and you look back over the year and you're kind of stupefied by all that your department did. It's really remarkable. Well done.
It was a good year.
Yes, it was. Great report.
Mayor, if I might, I'd like to mention the passing of Miles Sachs, who died, I think, last week. And Miles was a longtime resident of Glen Ridge, was a member of the council for 2 terms, I think, when I served, and then 2 terms even before that, years ago. Had a real love for Glen Ridge and a passion for volunteering, and gave back to his community, and was a terrific guy, very, very smart guy. He'll be missed.
Yeah. He was on a lot of different organizations over time.
What, President of Taxpayers, right?
The North Side, the taxpayers, lots of stuff.
His wife was on the school board, at least for 1 term, I know.
Yeah.
Also, historic preservation. Dorothy was on the historic preservation.
Yeah.
Wonderful couple, wonderful people.
That was a real gentleman.
Real asset to the town.
I was lucky enough to also serve with them on his second stint.
Can't you guys, resurrect him? And force him to come back to the council?
We asked him to stay, there was a big push, and he continued on. He really was something
Mayor, speaking about Miles, but if you would ask a staff member to describe councilperson Miles, the reply would most likely be two words: scary smart. Miles was scary smart, but it was his genuine thoughtfulness that I remember the most. For 6 years, Miles and I had a standing appointment every Monday at 1 o'clock. From that experience, I learned about his wisdom and his intelligent intellect, but rather his keen wit and his kindness. I learned a great deal from Miles and also appreciate the support he gave me, both as a council person and later as a friend. I always cherish his memory and will miss him, and I just extend my condolences to his friends and family. He'll be sorely missed, and even for staff, it was just great to pop in. And one of the things I liked about Miles, his appearance, his demeanor was very active. And if you remember, he had this great ability to break down any topic, whether it be a budget, bond ordinance, or a new policy, and make it understandable to all that were listening. So I really miss Miles. He was a great council person and just a great person to know.
Here, here.
You do an unfinished business, I think. You have some for me?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of routine items, resolution concerning a raffle and a catering permit for events at the Women's Club. Resolution number 57-17 to approve an application for a merchandise raffle to be held at the Women's Club on June 8th. Mr. Mayor, I move the resolution.
You're a second?
Second.
Thanks, Peter. Any comments? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Lasovich.
Aye.
Lefkowitz.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, the resolution is approved.
And finally, I have resolution number 58-17, approving the application for an ABC permit and catering permit for the Lyndhurst Diner to conduct an event at the Women's Club, catering at the Women's Club on April 29. Mr. Mayor, I move the resolution.
For your second? Second, Peter. Any comments? Seeing none?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Lasovich.
Aye.
Lefkowitz.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays, the resolution is approved.
At this point, we will hear comments from the public. Anybody that wishes to be heard? Jim O'Brien.
Take your time.
Certainly waited long enough.
Jim O'Brien, 47 Wildwood Terrace. It seems silly to come to a meeting with less than a handful of us left and not say anything. But I do want to express my gratitude to the police department, especially Sheila, and to your supervision. I feel safe in town. And I think that, there's probably not a greater feeling to have than being safe walking down the street, walking out at night, driving down the streets, or wherever happen to be doing business. And so I'm appreciative of the police department. I'm also sorry to hear about the death of Miles Sachs. I worked with him as well for a brief period of time and found him to be incredibly thoughtful, calm. He was calm and very smart guy. He was a smart guy. So he will be missed indeed. And I want to thank all of you. It's a labor of love, right? And
We
you
get
folks
paid so
are out working all the time for the betterment of our lovely town here. And so, while I don't come out to these meetings very often, I can't remember the last time I was here.
That's an understatement.
But I just want to express my gratitude for the yeoman's work, the labor of love that you do. And last, I just want to make a suggestion. I'm standing up here now. I've got the mic. Our minister, David Stinson, is retiring.
Yep.
Many of you may know that already. On June 30th is his last day. And his release service will be on June 25th, his last Sunday preaching. You may know that he's been here for 25 years. He's been our spiritual leader at the Glen Congregational Church. He was also an admiral in the United States Navy, and I think you know that as well. And so my suggestion is, recommendation, I'm not quite sure how to do this, a resolution from the town, maybe you've already thought about this, recognizing his service to us to us here in Glen Ridge for those 25 years, and his 30-year career in the Navy, rising to the rank of Rear Admiral, lower grade. So something to think about, and I'll probably be following up with you as time goes on.
That's a good idea.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
It's a great idea.
Very good idea, thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to hear? Seeing none?
I move that we adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Go. No, they moved out there 39 years ago, and I was